The Middle Ages, spanning roughly from the 5th to the late 15th century, was a period of profound transformation in Europe. Amidst the backdrop of feudalism, religious conflicts, and the gradual emergence of nation-states, diplomacy evolved as a crucial tool for managing relationships between various political entities. Italy, with its strategic location and rich cultural heritage, emerged as a significant center of diplomatic activity. Diplomatic practices in the early Middle Ages were significantly influenced by the feudal system, characterized by a decentralized political structure. Lords, vassals, and kings engaged in diplomacy to manage alliances, marriages, and territorial disputes. Diplomatic missions were often ad hoc, conducted by envoys who were usually nobles or clergy rather than professional diplomats. The Church played a pivotal role in medieval diplomacy, acting as a mediator in conflicts and a unifying force in Europe. The papacy's authority often extended beyond spiritual matters, influencing political and diplomatic decisions. Papal legates appointed by the Pope were instrumental in negotiating peace treaties and alliances, exemplifying the intertwined nature of religious and diplomatic affairs. During the High and Late Middle Ages, Italy was a mosaic of city-states such as Venice, Florence, and Milan. These city-states were highly competitive and engaged in constant diplomatic maneuvering to protect their interests. Italy's geographical position made it a crossroads for trade and cultural exchange, further enhancing its role in diplomacy. Venice, in particular, emerged as a dominant diplomatic force due to its strategic location and economic might. Venetian diplomats, known for their shrewdness and professionalism, established one of the earliest and most effective diplomatic networks. The Venetian diplomatic corps was a precursor to modern professional diplomacy, with permanent ambassadors stationed in foreign courts to gather intelligence and negotiate on behalf of the Republic. The concept of permanent embassies began to take shape in Italy during the late Middle Ages. City-states like Venice and Florence appointed resident ambassadors who maintained a continuous presence in foreign courts. This shift marked a significant evolution from the temporary mission-based diplomacy of earlier periods. The development of a professional diplomatic class required specialized training and expertise. Diplomats needed to be skilled in languages, negotiation, and the subtleties of court etiquette. Italian city-states established diplomatic academies and relied on seasoned diplomats to mentor newcomers, creating a well-trained diplomatic cadre. One of the main challenges faced by medieval diplomats was the fragmented political landscape of Europe. The feudal system meant that allegiances were fluid, and power was dispersed among numerous lords and vassals. Diplomatic negotiations often required balancing the interests of multiple stakeholders, each with their own agendas and loyalties. Religious conflicts, particularly the Crusades and the schism within the Catholic Church, posed significant challenges for diplomats. Balancing the demands of secular rulers and religious authorities required delicate negotiation and often placed diplomats in precarious positions. The papacy's involvement in temporal matters further complicated the diplomatic landscape. The gradual emergence of nation-states towards the end of the Middle Ages brought both challenges and opportunities. As centralized states like France and England gained power, diplomats had to navigate a more complex and hierarchical political environment. However, the rise of nation-states also facilitated more structured and formalized diplomatic practices. Dante Alighieri, best known for his literary masterpiece The Divine Comedy, also played a role in shaping diplomatic thought. As a diplomat for Florence, Dante was involved in missions to negotiate alliances and resolve conflicts. His writings reflect a deep understanding of the political dynamics of his time and the importance of diplomacy in achieving peace and stability. Francesco Petrarch, a scholar and poet, is often considered the father of humanism. His diplomatic missions on behalf of the Visconti of Milan and the papacy demonstrated his belief in the power of reason and dialogue. Petrarch's emphasis on the moral and ethical dimensions of diplomacy influenced subsequent generations of diplomats and thinkers. Perhaps the most influential figure in medieval and Renaissance diplomacy, Niccolò Machiavelli authored The Prince, a seminal work on political theory and statecraft. As a diplomat for the Republic of Florence, Machiavelli engaged in numerous diplomatic missions across Europe. His pragmatic approach to diplomacy, emphasizing realpolitik and the necessity of cunning and strategic thinking, left an indelible mark on the field. Machiavelli's ideas on the use of power and the role of diplomacy in statecraft continue to be studied and debated to this day. The Middle Ages laid the groundwork for the institutionalization of diplomatic practices that would be refined in the Renaissance and beyond. The establishment of permanent embassies, the development of a professional diplomatic class, and the codification of diplomatic protocols were all legacies of this period. Many principles and practices of modern diplomacy have their roots in the medieval period. The importance of intelligence gathering, the role of negotiation in conflict resolution, and the establishment of international norms and protocols were all shaped by medieval diplomatic experiences. The contributions of Italian city-states in particular provided a model for subsequent diplomatic practices in Europe and around the world. The evolution of diplomatic practices and institutions during the Middle Ages was a complex and dynamic process influenced by a variety of factors, including feudalism, religious conflict, and the rise of nation-states. Italy, with its competitive city-states and strategic position, emerged as a center of diplomatic activity, pioneering many practices that would become standard in modern diplomacy. Key figures like Dante, Petrarch, and Machiavelli played crucial roles in shaping diplomatic thought and practice, leaving a lasting legacy on the field. The challenges and opportunities faced by medieval diplomats laid the foundations for the sophisticated and structured diplomatic systems that we see today.